Wale! Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for an album review, the new Wale album, Ambition. This dude is a DC rapper. This is his second official full length. Of course, before this, he's released a nice handful of mixtapes, and this is the first album he's put out since kind of joining up with Maybach Music, which is the musical clique of Southern rapper Rick Ross. A lot of people have been asking me over and over and over to review this album, and I just really have no idea why. And I guess the reason I'm kind of confused is because this album raises a huge question for me, and that question is this album special? Is it different? Is it unique? And when I ask that question, I don't mean in the sense that, whoa, this is completely different than anything I've ever heard of, or wow. Going into every album with that expectation is kind of unreasonable. But still, are there any qualities here that are different? The flow, the lyrics, the story, the beats, the themes, anything? Every single time I ask myself that question, I always come up with the same answer, and oh, no. To me, ambition means you're going hard, you're going far, you're trying to make it, you're taking a risk. And this album doesn't take any risks whatsoever. It doesn't move anywhere outside of the current trendy sounds and ideas in mainstream hip-hop. And while, yeah, me and mainstream hip-hop aren't exactly best buddies, I can admire rappers like Rick Ross and Drake and Lil Wayne and J. Cole. They at least kind of have distinct flavors. Wale doesn't really try to develop a distinct flavor or character for himself on this album. Instead, he kind of just jumps from one lane to another in hope that maybe one or two tracks on here will become radio hits. There's some heavier tracks toward the end of the album I was picking up that sounded a lot like something Lex Luger would produce. On the 10th track, there's kind of an interesting MPC beat that was really choppy, kind of reminded me of the Cool Kids. The track Lotus Flower has kind of a nice electronic arpeggio floating in the background. And the 4th track, which is Legendary, has these stretched out horns that kind of come on really sultry. But ultimately every beat on here just kind of sounds like something I've heard somewhere else, just not as awesome. And as far as the lyricism goes on here, Wale's flow isn't really all that busy or intricate or mind-blowing. It doesn't really kind of come off as something somebody who's hardcore into technical ability would enjoy. And the thing is, that's fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But what kind of comes into being a problem is that Wale doesn't really say anything that's all that funny or clever or memorable or different. The only track that really stuck out to me as being pretty good is Legendary, and the reason I dug that track is because Wale kind of comes on pretty hard with his swagger. Most of the time Wale's doing something really average, really middle of the road, or he's kind of embracing this new trend of rap singing that has been brought on by guys like Drake. And the problem with Wale is that, you know, he's an even worse singer than Drake was when Thank Me Later came out. This album just kind of feels like a bit of a knockoff to me. It feels like a chameleon, except it's not all that great at blending into any of the ideas it's trying to copy. And I understand we all have influences, we all take ideas and kind of repeat them, but this album doesn't do anything, Wale doesn't do anything to make these ideas his, put a different spin on them. So, oh, I'm kind of seeing it from a different perspective now. What do you think of this album? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, Wale, forever.